Welcome back to the Lumiose Post, where we talk about all things Pokemon, and today we're going to be talking about cross-gen evolutions. Cross-gen evolutions are the terms that are given out to new evolutions for Pokemon that were introduced previously. So these are your things like Steelix, Rhyperior, Sylveon, stuff like that. We're going to be breaking down each gen and kind of how they have differed over the years, because these actually have changed a lot. So starting with Gen 2, because obviously there were no cross-gen evolutions in Gen 1, because there were no cross-gens, there was just the one gen. But Gen 2, we had several different cross-gen evolutions. Politoed, Kingdra, Slowking, so many really. Now, the purpose of these cross-gen evolutions were to kind of debut the new things about the Gen 2 games. So, the Gen 2 games had the day and night cycle, also happiness, your Pokemon's happiness, and this was reflected in the different evolutions. Pokemon like Crobat and Blissey evolved based on their happiness with you. Now, instead of just trading a Pokemon to evolve it, you had to trade the Pokemon while it was holding a specific item to evolve it. So Pokemon like Kingdra and Politoed, or Seadra and Poliwhirl, got an evolution from that. And then also, too, the day and night cycle was a new thing, and that was seen with the evolutions, Umbreon and Espeon. These are based on both happiness and the day and night cycle, in fact, so it was kind of blending the two. Also, some other new stuff were new types. We had dark types and steel types now, and this is kind of where the metal coat came into play. This allowed Scyther to evolve into Scizor and Onix to evolve into Steelix, which gave them the steel type. So it kind of filled the 251 Pokemon roster with some more steel types, which makes sense. You want some diversity in there. Also, too, it's a nice way to kind of imagine the Pokemon from before with these brand new typings we've gotten. Then, Gen 3, we actually did not see any new evolutions to older Pokemon, but Gen 4, we got a good bit of them. It feels like half the decks of Gen 4 are cross-gen evolutions. I don't know if that's like an actual statistic, but it feels that way. You know, you had Ambipom, Rhyperior, Electivire, just so many, too many to name. These evolutions also debuted some new features, sure, some of them did at least. You had things like how now you had to learn a specific move to be able to evolve. There were geography-based evolutions, so Pokemon like Magneton and Nosepass could only evolve around Mount Coronet, and Eevee could only evolve into Glaceon and Leafeon based off of where it was in the Sinnoh region. So you had these things introduced as well, and you did have some others outside of that too. There were plenty that kind of had a traditional evolution method, like Electivire, Magmortar, Rhyperior were just evolutions by trading with an item, which, again, we had seen before in Gen 2. You did also have the introduction of gender evolutions here, so they kind of added that into it as well, with now only female Snowrunts being able to evolve into Frostlass, and then also male Kirlia being able to evolve into Gallade. And then sure, you have some new stones like the Shiny Stone, the Dawn Stone, the Dust Stone giving out evolutions, but stone evolutions aren't anything new to the franchise, just those specific stones were. I think the reason that these evolutions were given out were because it's been 4 generations. It also, Generation 4, set in the Sinnoh region, is based on Hokkaido, which is in Japan, and they actually left Japan, and that ended up being the last time we got a full region for a Japanese-based region. So it could have been like a little last hurrah for Game Freak before the soft reboot that Unova brought. Also, too, again, I think it was really just to keep some mons viable, because obviously as generations go on, there will be more Pokemon introduced, there will be a power creep, and this will kind of make Pokemon that maybe were once good, no longer good. Like, I think about how in Gen 1, Primeape was actually a really good Pokemon. Primeape has not been a good Pokemon for ages now, so, you know, it needed an evolution, Annihilate, much later on. So I think that's the reason that these were given out then. Gen 5 did not bring any evolutions, and in fact, actually brought what many were worried would be the death of evolutions, and this was the eviolite item. So the eviolite item functions where if I give it to a Pokemon that can still evolve, then that Pokemon will be able to get a stat boost from this. This stat boost is specifically in the Pokemon's defenses. It's defense, it's special defense, and it, again, only works on Pokemon that can still evolve. So if I give it to an Ivysaur, it'll work. If I give it to a Venusaur, it will not work. Now, the worry here was that Game Freak doesn't like to kind of retcon. For example, while Gardevoir may appear as a more effeminate Pokemon, both males and females could evolve into it in Gen 3. So when they added Gallade to the line, they didn't make it where only male Kirlia evolve into Gallade and only female evolve into Gardevoir. They just made it where only the males can evolve into Gallade, but you can still get a female or male Gardevoir. So now with this eviolite item, it says when I give it to a Heracross, it doesn't work because Heracross cannot evolve. But when I give it to a Pikachu, it does work because Pikachu can still evolve. So the fear now was that we would never see new evolutions for Pokemon like Heracross that could not evolve. But if we ever got evolutions, it would have to be for Pokemon that can still evolve. And then Gen 6 rolled around, and here we got one cross-gen evolution, and that was Sylveon, which, again, didn't break the eviolite trend. It still stayed true because the eviolite always works on it, so by giving it Sylveon as an evolution, it doesn't retcon anything. Now, this evolution was introduced for one, to kind of debut the fairy type, and that makes sense. It's the first time Pokemon has added a new type since Generation 2, and Eevee is kind of seen as the type-based Mon because it has different evolutions depending on the type. So it makes sense that to be the mascot of this new type, you'd want an evolution. Likewise, if we ever got a new type again, a 19th type, I think that they would give us a new evolution for it because, again, it's just so iconic with typings. Also, too, Sylveon debuted another new evolution method. This would get retconned later, but that doesn't matter. Now, Eevee could evolve into Sylveon by knowing a fairy move, so it had to be a specific type of move, and then also based on affection. And you might go, whoa, happiness was already a thing, and it was, but affection was not. Affection was based on you playing with it in Pokemon Amiibo. This would later be Pokemon Refresh, and then you could do it in Camping too, I think, in Sword and Shield, but this was kind of the little Nintendogs thing you could do with your Pokemon. So then we have Gen 7, and we don't get new evolutions. We get introduced to regional forms, and I think a lot of people were really bummed not to see any new evolutions here, because at this point, it's been like a decade almost since we got our last batch of cross-gen evolutions, with the exception of Sylveon, but, you know, the last big batch of them. And this is supposed to be a celebratory gen. It is Pokemon's 20th year anniversary. Where are evolutions? I think a lot of people were upset with that, and it kind of made the eviolite retcon feel a little more real, and like, oh no, that actually might affect things now. But then Gen 8 happens, and they find a way around this. They give us regional form evolutions. These are evolutions that are exclusive to regional forms. So, for example, a Hoennian Linoon cannot evolve, but a Galarian Linoon will evolve into an Obstagoon. Now, there is kind of a problem with regional form evolutions, and it's a problem that many players actually have, and that is that they kind of make the original Pokemon irrelevant. Now, this isn't true with all of them. For a Pokemon like Meowth, where the original form evolves into Persian, but the Galarian form just evolves into Berserker instead, or Wooper going to Clodsire or Quagsire, it doesn't feel like the other ones getting retconned. And even ones like Quillfish, where it's a water poison type, or the dark poison type can evolve into Overqwil, doesn't feel like a retcon because you still have two different typings there, right? The water poison Quillfish or the dark poison Overqwil. But where Pokemon did get overshadowed were with things like Linoon. Why would I use a Hoennian Linoon when I can use an Obstagoon, which is more powerful, still has that normal typing, and gets another stab on top of that? And especially with, I think this is the one that most people have the problem with, and that is Farfetch'd. Farfetch'd is a normal flying type Pokemon, but now it gets a Galarian form Farfetch'd that is fighting type, and then that form gets an evolution with Surfetch'd, pure fighting type. So a completely different Mon, yes, But the normal flying type's just so common. Staraptor, Pidgeot, Fearow, Squawkabilly, Chatot. There's so many normal flying type Pokemon. So Farfetch was already overshadowed. And now they just basically went, why would you ever use this? Use this one instead. It's better and it evolves. That one doesn't. It does nothing. And so it made people feel like, well, great. This is just, Farfetch is going to be forever forgotten. When people think Farfetch, they'll think the Galarian one now. And I can understand that. I love Sirfetch, so I don't really care. But I can understand that critique. I think it's a very valid critique. And then with Legends Arceus, we actually did get some new evolutions. We got Kleavor, Ursaluna, and also Weirdeer. These were our only true evolutions. We did get some more regional form evolutions, Sneasler, Overquill, etc. But these were our true evolutions. But this still hadn't quite broken the Eviolite retcon, because we didn't know how this would look later on. You know, Stantler can evolve in the distant past, in the times of Hisui, but that doesn't mean a Stantler can evolve today, you know? And that ended up being half true, because then when Scarlet and Violet comes out, we get a Stantler, and Stantler cannot evolve in that game. So you can't evolve your Stantler into Weirdeer. However, you can give it an Eviolite and it still work. So it seems that they had finally broken the Eviolite retcon. And with this, they also gave us 4 other evolutions, and that was Annihilate, an evolution to Primeape, Farigiraf, an evolution to Girafarig, Dunsparce, the long-awaited evolution to Dunsparce, and Kingambit, an evolution to Bisharp. So this is great. We seem to be rid of the Eviolite retcon. But there's one thing in the press release with Farigiraf that still kind of has us worried. And since we haven't gotten a Pokemon game since Scarlet and Violet, I don't know how this is going to turn out. But it says that Girafarig are able to evolve in the Paldea region. Like it says in the Paldea region. It makes it specific, like, oh, it's only here, or only Girafarig caught here. So the question is, in Gen 10, if I catch a Girafarig, will it not be able to evolve into Farigiraf? Is that now a region-locked evolution? I don't like the thought of that at all. You can make up for this by saying, well, I could breed a Girafarig and Kitakami, hatch the egg, and then that is now a Kitakami and Girafarig, right? Like, it's not a new form, but, you know, that Girafarig was from Kitakami, and I could still evolve it into Farigiraf. Also, they're in the terrarium, but I would counter that by saying that that may not mean anything. I don't think this is what they'll do. I think that these evolutions, especially Farigiraf and Annihilate, are so beloved by the fans that there's no way that they just kind of leave them behind to Paldea only, and we don't get them in Gen 10 if Girafarig and Primeape are available in the Gen 10 games. I don't see them doing that, but I did want to throw that out there, that verbiage was given, and it does have a few people worried. We even then got another cross-gen evolution in the DLC. We have Diplin given to Applin, and then in the next batch of DLC, Hydrapple to complete that. And then also Archaludon, an evolution to Duraludon. So this was pretty cool because it was the first time Pokemon had touched a Pokemon from just the previous gen to give it a new evolution. Usually when they're revisiting these Pokemon now, it's like gens 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 maybe. But it was cool to see them just go back and revisit Galar just a little bit ago and give some Pokemon from that region some love. That was really cool to see. I'm very happy about that. But yeah, so here we are now. We're looking at the future, and I don't know what the future will bring. I do think that they're going to keep going with cross-gen evolutions. Cross-gen evolutions are necessary because you do need to give these Pokemon some more light. Like I said, Annihilate made Primeape relevant again. Not just competitively, but also it being talked about. Seriously, before Annihilate, how often were you hearing Primeape be talked about? Not really much, unless maybe you were talking about Ash's Primeape or something. And even that one was so shafted to the side. So, it's cool to see it give that new drum up for old Pokemon, but then also, again, the competitive viability is important. If we don't give new forms, new gimmicks, new evolutions to Gen 1, 2, 3, 4 Pokemon, they're going to get power crept out of the game. There's going to be no point in using Pokemon from those first 4 gens. And obviously Game Freak's not going to want to do that because Gen 1 is their baby. So I think that we will be seeing cross-gen evolutions as a staple going forward, and I'm all here for it. It also is a great way to drum up nostalgia and drum up hype and discussion about games. I know that personally it is the thing that I tend to find myself looking forward to the most with a new Pokemon game, is I'm kind of like, ooh, you know, maybe this Pokemon that I really love but it's not good, will it maybe get an evolution coming up? You know, will Dugong get an evolution soon? Or will Cloth get an evolution soon? I don't know, but I'm sticking around to find out, right? And then when they do reveal it, it's like, oh, it finally happened, guys, and everyone's talking about it. So then Pokemon's getting the free press from that, right? So it's just a genius thing. I don't think we'll be seeing it end anytime soon. I think since we've made it past the eviolite retcon, we can breathe easy and say that Pokemon cross-gen evolutions are here to stay. I love them so much. Let me know what you think of them in the comments below, as well as tell me your favorite, and tell me, you know, maybe if you like the ones now or not, because I know, you know, they do kind of have a different vibe, at least to me, than they did in Gen 4. Maybe that's because Gen 4 was just such a large batch of them. But let me know in the comments below. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications so you won't miss all of our future videos. And until next time, I will see all of you later.